G'day everybody, it's Danny here, and welcome to a spooky Halloween episode of Talking Sanctuary. And I'm not talking about those horrific board games that might be sitting on your shelf. I'm going to talk about something far more scarier. Still related to board games? Stay tuned. Hey Danny, do you want to play a scary board game? Danny? Danny? Halloween is a really special time of the year where you can get dressed up with your friends, have them over, and decorate your entire house with spooky decorations, as well as loading up on sugar. When it comes to playing board games, I love a really great scary game, but in this video, I thought I'd take a little different angle when it comes to games that scare you, and I thought I'd share with you my top board games that have frightened me, and not in the thematic way, in the board game way. There was one game that I acquired early on in my board game collection that absolutely scared me. It was a game where players took on the role of different characters as they explored a mansion, they encountered omens, and triggered a haunt, which would then shift the game into another gear where one player became the traitor and the other players were pitted against them. The game I'm talking about is Betrayal at House on the Hill. This game absolutely frightened me. When I first played this game, we had eerie music going on, we had candles lit, we tried to set the atmosphere and the tone of the game as we played it. But what absolutely frightened me the most was the fact that in the first game, I actually was chosen as the traitor, and then my friends told me that I had to go and sit in the toilet and read my book, which was like kind of the other half of the rules that you get in the game, and decide what I had to do in a separate room whilst they got to sit and enjoy each other's company and talk about what they were going to do to ultimately win the game. That sense of isolation absolutely frightened me. I didn't enjoy sitting in my friend's bathroom, just looking through this rulebook going, okay, this is the scenario and this is my objective. And it was just such a weird and surreal experience. Coming back to the group and having everyone look at you strangely was something that I didn't really feel comfortable with. The next game that scares me is a game that I like to look at on my shelf rather than get out and play all the time. I wouldn't describe it as a casual game per se. Mainly because not only does the game come with introductory rules, it's got a main rulebook and also a separate rulebook which kind of has an index of all the situational rules that can come up. The game I'm talking about is Root. I love the theme of Root. I love the illustration, I love the world of Root, but what's kind of disguised in this game is a war-style game, and I find conflict incredibly hard to kind of deal with in board games. I like how the factions all have asymmetric powers and abilities that kind of weave in together, but the hardest and most frightening part of this game is trying to teach not only the base rules, but then how each individual faction works, and each player has to then wrap their head around not only how their faction operates, but how it plays out on the actual game and what strategy they then need to employ. If you're playing with the eerie dynasties, how does the card play work? How does the use of leader cards work? And if you're playing with the other factions, oh boy, the scare factor for me when it comes to trying to get over the rules hurdle is overwhelming. The next super scary, creepy game is one that you'll be surprised at, and it's Calico. Calico is a tile-laying game where players are actually making patchwork quilts by coordinating patterns as well as the color of the tiles to meet objectives that are set out on their quilt and to also please 3 different cats. Now you might be thinking, well, the theme of Calico isn't scary, but do you know what is frightening? Not being able to do every single thing that you want to do. The puzzle that is contained in this beautiful, cute package is incredibly frightening and incredibly intimidating. You've got these 3 tile objectives and you're like, there is no way I can complete all 3 of them. How can I take these 3 tiles from the market and then use one of them to try and like fulfill all these conditions? There is absolutely no way, and that's how I feel when I play Calico. The sense of restriction and the sense of constriction when it comes to the decisions and the strategy, and as you progress throughout the game, you've got less and less places to put those tiles. Oh boy, this game is scary. The next game that absolutely frightens me is a game that I'm actually quite intimidated to play. It's not a hard game to play, it's an incredibly beautiful game, and when you see the cover you might think, wow, this game looks so picturesque. It kind of reminds you of like a summer holiday on a tropical island. The game is called Vanuatu. Vanuatu is a game where you're kind of exploring the reef, you're taking tourists around, and then you're also building these little resorts and trying to earn some income at the same time. What is absolutely frightening about this game is the action selection mechanism. You have to place your discs on particular actions, and other players can come along and just literally snatch those actions from you. And sometimes you might find yourself in some rounds not doing much at all. It is a game where you're trying to bid for particular actions that you want to resolve, and if other players know that you want to do a particular thing, they can outbid you with their little discs. That's what scares me. Games where there's an inherent level of meanness and blockage, which kind of leads to then frustration. The next board game that absolutely scares me is one that you probably wouldn't expect. And I think that's the common theme with this list is games that are not necessarily spooky in theme, but they scare me in a whole magnitude of other ways. Alchemist is a board game where players are going to be testing different ingredients together to try and work out and deduce which potions match with which. And the game comes with a very intimidating pad of different chemical symbols and colors which kind of match the ingredient cards in the actual game, and then players have to use this pyramid of ingredients to try and deduce which one is which. And basically the game involves using your phone and the app to scan pairs of ingredients together to see how they react together. And here are the ingredients at the bottom of the pyramid. By using the results of those ingredient pairings, you can get a chemical reaction which tells you kind of which chemical goes with which ingredient card, and players are throughout the game going to be publicizing their theories, they're going to be sharing their theories, and then at the end of the game they're ultimately going to be trying to deduce which ingredient goes with which. And I love the deduction element of this game. Players get this cool screen where they get to place their little pyramid behind it. What really scares me most about this game is the high level of complexity. This game ultimately at its core is a deduction game, but then the game kind of adds all these extra elements to it that I don't know really is necessary, because the most fun part of the game is trying to match the potions and scanning them together and getting the result. Then there's this whole other separate game that kind of comes with it. Whilst I like the premise of Alchemist, and I do enjoy playing Alchemist, I find that getting it off the shelf and then presenting it to someone else quite a scary thought. If you look at this person jumping out the window, this kind of sums up how sometimes I feel when it comes to should I teach Alchemist or should I teach a more simpler deduction game? The next board game that I want to introduce is by a board game designer that I absolutely love and respect. In fact, I have pretty much every single game that he's made. His games can kind of come under their own board game genre. This game is one that really scares me because as soon as I pulled out the rulebook, I looked at how many pages were in the rulebook. I think there's about 30 pages overall. I was like, maybe not today. Empires of the Void 2. This game is all about traveling to different planets. It's kind of like a 4X style game, I think. I haven't actually played this game, to be honest, but it does say 30 minutes per player, but quickly browsing through the rules, I think it's definitely going to be a lot longer than that. And I've played, a lot of Ryan Lockett's other games, including Now or Never, as well as Sleeping Gods, and even with Sleeping Gods, this box is probably about the same size as that. The game itself looks so intimidating. I love the theme so much that I'm going to give it a go. But sometimes when a box is bigger than your head, that just frightens me. It's almost like looking at a copy of Gloomhaven and going, how heavy is this box? If I can't carry it, should I even own it? There are some board games out there that are really good and highly rated by a lot of players. The next game that I want to share with you is one that is high up on the Board Game Geek rank, but I've just found getting through the rulebook itself and understanding how the game operates, something that I've just not been able to get past. For some reason, every time I try to sit down to try and learn the game, I hit a wall, and then I'm like, okay, maybe next time. And then a couple of weeks later, I'll try again and be like, oh, I'll get it this time. Just couldn't do it. Keyflower is an auctioning style game where players are placing their meeples next to certain hex tiles and then using them to create their engine. And what I found incredibly frightening about this game is there are so many little symbols on the tiles, and I know it's a feature of the Key series games to have this kind of overwhelming sense of symbology and iconography over everything, and something I probably knew about when I got the game. But yeah, you've got your rules in your rule book, and then you've even got the summary rules. And even when I'm trying to read and comprehend the summary rules, my brain just can't seem to get around it. It almost looks very mathematical and theoretical. I mean, like even down to the 3+ this purple meeple. I think this is a game I actually would really enjoy once I actually commit to learning it all the way through, maybe watching some videos, or actually learning the game together with someone else, maybe someone who's actually played it. This one's a tough one. I think it also looks quite dry, and so when I see dryness, my brain just doesn't really click into how everything is gonna flow and work when I play it. So I hope you enjoyed that casual chat, and I really enjoyed sharing very candidly some of my thoughts about games that have really unsettled and intimidated me. If you've got some really great tips that you'd love to share that will help me get into those games a little bit more smoothly and easily, please write them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear them and love to hear your experiences with those games that I've shared. Thanks for joining me for this cool, weird, scary twist on Halloween board games, and I hope you've enjoyed my take on that scary Halloween theme. So if you found this video really helpful, enlightening, or even inspiring, then please feel free to head over to my Patreon page and support me on Patreon, or consider giving this video a like and a subscribe. If you really want to check out some more content, I have a really cool Talking Sanctuary vlog, which you can access via the main page of my YouTube channel. Feel free to head over there and find some more interesting board gaming topic. This is Danny signing out. Can't wait to see you again in a video in the near future. Bye!